Hello, I'm Luna, an astrologer and tarot reader of over 8 years. I have had the joy of guiding over 1,000 clients on their own personal astrological journeys, and today we're going to be talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I wanted to take a look at these two just because there has been so many comparisons of Johnny and Amber's trial with what's happening with Blake and Justin at this time. I also read that Justin had hired Johnny's PR firm. So I just want to take a look at these two and maybe take a look at their transits to see what was happening around the time of the trial. What was going on in their relationship, what was happening, why did this kind of blow up to such a huge degree. And if you would like your own personalized reading, you can head on over to my store. The link is in the description below. So let's get started here. First thing I'm kind of noticing is this Moon-Mars conjunction. So for context, the blue, the inner circle, is Johnny, and the outer circle in orange is Amber's chart. So we don't have a birth time for Amber, but we have, even this moon in Libra, it's not really going to change that much. So her chart's pretty reliable. We could just take a look at the aspects. So this Moon-Mars conjunction. So first off, Moon-Mars conjunctions are incredibly attractive. It's one of the most sexy placements you can have with someone. This is I want to have your babies kind of vibe, but it's interesting that it's inversed because this is Johnny's moon on Amber's Mars. From the get-go here, her dominant planet being on his soft and nurturing planet can create a dynamic where she will inadvertently hurt his feelings all the time. Mars and Capricorn people are very tough, they're very stern, they're very structured, and they like to handle things head on, okay? This Mars on his moon, this means emotionally he is someone who's a little bit emotionally stunted. Moon in Capricorn means that he internalizes a lot of his inner world, doesn't really always know how to express what's going on within him. And at the beginning, this created a lot of sexiness between them, right? He felt like she's so strong, she's so dominant, she tells it how it is. He probably liked that about her, and it probably really contrasted his more chill nature with the moon in Capricorn, which kind of keeps him a little on the inner world. She externalizes it, right? She brings it out, right? Because Mars is your physicality, it's going outward. And Neptune's here too, so he probably idealized her. This is also very Moon Neptune contacts are very surreal, almost being on drugs. Honestly, yeah, that stuff definitely played a huge role in the relationship. Which I was reading, he has a lot of stuff, addiction issues, and she does too. This was a perfect storm. Okay, that little thing right here, when you add alcohol, fighting, Mars, and his feelings being kind of closed off, you're gonna get someone who's very reactive. Mars and Capricorn, let's talk about this now. Let's talk about this now. And he's no, let me just go get a drink, right? And he wants to avoid. And this squares her moon. So this means that emotionally they were a little incompatible, but she's also very reactive. She has a Mars squared moon. That means that emotionally she's someone who deals with her feelings by responding, confronting, taking action, doing. But it usually comes from a misguided place. So a moon square to Mars would be she's feeling ignored by him. She feels he's pushing her out. And so she starts a fight about something random, right? That's what this would be. And the squares between, her moon squaring her own Mars and then squaring his moon too, means that he got sandwiched in her own kind of internal war. Whenever she was emotionally erratic, Mars Neptune also indicates that she doesn't always see things for what they really are. She might create realities, or it could be that she's a good liar. Mars Neptune is someone who knows how to work in silence or create illusions. And Johnny's kind of caught up in this. But here's the thing about Johnny is he's not an incredibly present person. He has this Mars, Uranus, Pluto in Virgo. This is a very submissive Mars for a man. It means that he bolts, right? He ghosts you. If he's scared, the way he takes his power back is he leaves. In Virgo too, this indicates that he's more of a verbal antagonizer than anything. This would be his Mercury. Where's his Mercury? He's got a Mercury in Taurus. He's very crude. He could be very I don't want to say Taurus is kind of someone who likes to say a lot of bad words, right? Taurus is indulgent. He's indulgent with his words, which is interesting because it was his words that a lot of the things he was saying about her over text and things she caught him saying that made him seem very, very intense. And he is intense. He has a Mars-Pluto conjunction. I mean, this has just been the week of Mars-Pluto contacts. I've just been doing reading after reading after reading for you guys, and it's just this marker right here. But Uranus kind of throws a wrench in that. I think Ryan has that too. This does give him temper problems, but Virgo is not a sign you would often associate with someone literally hurting you, physically. This would be he's really verbally hurtful. and also evasive. This also squares, his Pluto squares her Saturn. This is issues with authority. This means that she wanted to create rules for him and wanted him to act in ways that she demanded. And he's like very hard to predict, right? He's a very unpredictable person. So like she could have felt like his refusal to do what she wanted was like war, right? Like she wants to get her way. Saturn square to Pluto. And I think, you know, as the relationship got even more like dirty and like terrible and nasty, and like, you know, once they just were both being cruel, this Mars Uranus on his end, I think he flipped a switch. That's the thing about a Mars Uranus conjunction, is these people are hard to predict. And I think at first she thought she would beat him, and I think she did beat him for a while because he was avoiding confrontation. Mars Uranus and Virgo is so very avoidant, like I'm gonna ghost, I'm gonna leave, I'm here one day, I'm gone the next, right? Like you don't know my next move. But once like this Pluto got really riled up, Virgo, he got his crap together. Okay, he probably flipped a switch on her. And even with this moon on her Mars, he probably often responded to her aggression with nurturing or with trying to appease her. But I think once she really started to throw the law at him, right, Saturn, that's when he started being kind of crazy too and ruthless. The thing is, like, it's not about them being crazy, but it's like these are war planets. Mars Pluto, people with a Mars Pluto conjunction, they are ruthless. Okay, what Justin is doing to Blake, that's ruthless. Okay, that's like he's throwing everything at you. So Mars Pluto people, like, you don't want to start a war with these people, okay? Because they are really freaking intense. They take things really personally. And honestly, when you throw Uranus in there, I think he was detached for the beginning of it, and then square to Saturn, he was like, okay, I'm gonna show you up, right? Saturn square Pluto, like I'm gonna turn the tables on you. Her South Node Pluto conjunction is on his 4th house, and it's on his Lilith. I think he was addicted to the tumultuousness of the relationship at the beginning. I think he liked it. I think, like I said, Mars and Capricorn on his moon, like this would have been apparent like very early on. She's like very abrasive. But he liked it, right, at first. But then it's part of this T square, which we'll get to this Jupiter in a second. But he has a little bit of a messy home. Lilith, Neptune, 4th house. That's a home life where, like, dad wasn't faithful. There could have been a lot of drugs or alcohol in the home. Neptune, like addiction in the home. Even with Lilith here, like a very controlling, crazy mom, or a very controlling, crazy feminine energy in the home. Maybe his dad got married multiple times. I don't really know. But this is a very toxic home life. And she was mirroring that to him. South Node Pluto. She is a destructive person. Like, wherever your South Node is, that's like what you're naturally doing, right? It's like your habits. What are your habits? South Node Pluto, your habit is destruction. You destroy things. You like to scheme. She's a little bit of a schemer. She like plots. This is someone who likes to plot. He is not someone who likes to plot. Like this man, I guarantee he doesn't even know what he's having for breakfast. Mars Uranus is like, he's on the go. He goes with the flow. This is probably why he just like marries a bunch of women, like randomly. Her Sun North Node conjunction is on his midheaven. This was definitely a relationship she pursued because of clout. Like his image, his fame, his success was a huge, huge allure for her. And it trines his Mars. It's interesting. I think he didn't care that she liked his fame. I think that he saw it as someone who was driven. I think that's what I'm saying. All the things about her that made her a bit of a schemer were also things he really liked about her. He liked that she was a go-getter, Mars and Capricorn, someone who hustles, someone who works, does what she has to do to succeed. Sun North Node is a very ambitious woman, right? Sun in Taurus, she's a very beautiful woman and she knows it and she uses it, right? Taurus, Venus in Taurus is like notorious for like, not always, but like these people can be transactional, right? Like they can be like, you know what, I will go on a date with a rich guy because I want to make money, even if he's old, right? So Venus in Taurus is like, she's very superficial in her pursuits in love as well. Like she could be money motivated. And he is also very shallow in his pursuits in love. He has a Venus in Taurus. Like he's a sucker for a pretty face. And so like all these red flags, they were there, okay? They were not being hidden. I think that he just didn't really, he's avoidant and he just didn't really care. And this trine here, it's like, even though she was obviously using him for his fame, I think he knew that. And I think he didn't really care. And I think he saw it as like, how do I explain this? This is like, she's seducing you with telling you she's using you, with telling you she doesn't need you, with telling you that she's gonna like take advantage of you. Like these kind of things, like I think she was probably very direct. Even here, like this Mercury Jupiter, this is like they have a lot of conversations. And her Jupiter on his Chiron, she definitely saw a huge benefit in making money off of him. Jupiter in the 8th house, she benefited a lot from being with him financially. But Jupiter Chiron's interesting because it means that he's very wounded. Chiron in Pisces, again, this guy has a lot of addiction issues. In the 8th house, he blurs boundaries between money and love and intimacy, money and intimacy, you know, physical connection versus real intimacy. Like he has wounding around that stuff. And she exploited it, Jupiter Chiron. It's like, I see an opportunity to make more money, right? To attach myself to someone. I do think that she did love him though. I mean, her moon is really wrapped up in this chart. That means that she was very emotionally invested. But he, honestly, he made her really angry. Moon opposite Jupiter. That's like being around him, right? Jupiter amplifies things, amplified her emotions. This could be positive. It could be that maybe he was one of the few people that she's actually really, really loved, even though the initial draw to him was just because he was famous. I think that maybe he got under her skin and she actually started to love him. And then because she was so invested in him, when he didn't behave the way she wanted, right? Saturn squared to Pluto and Mars, it like riled her up. Like, why aren't you behaving how I need you to behave? Why are you avoiding me? And I remember there was like recordings of her like when he would try to avoid her because he would try to like escape the conflicts, it would make her more angry. And it's because, you know, this Mars in Capricorn square to Moon, she can't sit with her feelings. She's not someone who can sit with her feelings, right? Moon in Libra, she needs something outside of her to regulate her feelings. Other people, a relationship, a friend, something to take her anger out on. She needs to resolve things through confrontation. He does not resolve things through confrontation. He resolves things through ghost. It's also opposing his Chiron. He's a very wounded person and he lives in his own brain a lot. Like he doesn't always, he's not easy to know, if that makes sense. You know, his moon's in Capricorn, it's afflicted there. And it's ruled by his Saturn here in Aquarius. Saturn in the 7th house is interesting. It means he has a lot of karma around marriage, which I'm going to take a look at their transits. But I think this Saturn has a lot to do with everything that unfolded. His son's on her Chiron. He triggered wounding for her about not being taken seriously, right? So Chiron and Gemini, that's like, I'm not smart enough. People don't really care what I have to say. People don't really think of me as smart. People don't really think of me as like intelligent or important. And his son being here, it means that on the one end, it soothed her, right? Being associated with someone as established and respected as Johnny Depp soothed this feeling that she wasn't really taken seriously. But then over time, as they conflicted, it also became a source of wounding, right? Like, I remember, like, he made fun of her being an Aquaman. Like, I'm sure that really hurt her because she wants to be taken seriously. Chiron and Gemini, he got her good, right? He got her somewhere that really burns her, right? Because she wants to be taken seriously. Sun in the 10th house, she wants to be famous. She wants to be known, respected, and she will do anything to have that, right? Mars in Capricorn, she will work her way to the top and do anything she needs to do to get there. And then she gets there and she has someone as respected as Johnny telling her, like, she's a joke, right? Like, that's really going to rile her up. His son's also part of a T-square with her Jupiter and Uranus. His sun opposing Uranus means that the same unpredictability that he brought to the relationship, right? Like, his, like, suave, like, one day he's here, one day he's not, hooked her in at the beginning. But over time, because she became emotionally invested, she started to feel like she had a lot to lose. And that's probably why she turned around and striked first, right? The sun square to Jupiter, that means that she felt like he really, like, got in, how do I explain this? Jupiter's like your luck, your prosperity, and it's about your ability to feel wise and abundant. His sun squaring that means that his ego, his pride, his success made her feel like her luck, her success, her prosperity, her abundance was only because of him. Like, maybe he did say that. Maybe he was like, you only got that job because I put in a good word, right? Like, that kind of stuff really hurt her, and so then she would hit him where it hurt. Jupiter, Chiron, like, you're a drunk in Pisces. You know, you're an addict. You're stupid and lazy and crazy, right? Like, that kind of stuff. So this is a really, really toxic, really, 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 really toxic. And you cannot, you know, get me to believe that it wasn't toxic from the moment they met. From the moment they met, this dynamic was playing out. Because this is instantaneous. Moon, Mars, you feel that instantly. This T-square with their moons, that's like upon first meeting, you're like angry at each other. we're always fighting, we're always bickering. Like these two, I don't think there was ever a time where they weren't fighting. I don't think there was ever a time where they got along. I think that the fighting was something that drew them together, and then over time the fighting just got worse and worse. And it never like, and then eventually it wasn't hot anymore, you know? It was like war. This is crazy. Let's take a look at their transits at the time of their trial. So this was, I think, right after the trial ended, like in June 2022. He was going through his Saturn return. She was a major karmic lesson for him. I don't really know a lot about his love life, but Saturn in the 7th house is about him needing to learn the sanctity of what it really means to be married to someone. And Saturn retrograde, I mean, he's been married multiple times. Let's see, his Saturn squares is Venus. Saturn square Venus, he has a lot of lessons around love. And Venus in Taurus is, in its worst manifestation, a very superficial sign that can get caught up in just beauty and physical stuff and money and that stuff. And I wonder if maybe his decision to marry Amber had little to do with compatibility or love and more to do with lust. I don't know about his other relationships or his other marriages, but maybe he has a habit of marrying women simply because of their beauty, simply because he wants to have them, rather than because, you know, he really loves them or something. I don't really know how this is playing out, but I would need to know more about his life. But she was bringing that up. They also had this North Node Uranus Venus Mercury right on his Venus Mercury in the 10th house. So this is a perfect storm. North Node Uranus, like, I mean, they were the talk of the world. Everyone was talking about them. They were going viral on Mercury. Everything, you know, their whole lives were being unearthed. Mercury, like, everyone was just talking about these two. Venus here, his love life was put on display. Oh, but here's this Mars Chiron, his Jupiter. A bloody war that he came out winning. You know, Jupiter, he won. But Mars Chiron is like winning at what cost? In Aries, it's like winning at what cost? It's like winning for ego, winning just to prove something. But maybe also understanding that regardless of if he won or not, there is no future, if that makes sense. Because, like, I mean, after something like this, like, he hasn't really had a lot of a career. He hasn't had much of a career. Like, at this point, it was probably just to prove a point, just to make sure that she couldn't get more out of him. Mars Chiron is like, I've already lost a lot. Like, you've lost an arm kind of thing. But at least I'm going to come out winning, right? At least I'm going to drag you down. So this is a very, very vengeful, very, like, intense. It's not even vengeful. That's not the right word. It's very, like, it's a little bit of a surrender feeling of, like, well, I'm effed anyway, so I might as well, like, just do whatever I have to do. Yeah, those are the main transits for him. Now let's take a look at her. She was going through the same thing. North Node, Uranus, Venus on her Venus. And then Saturn. I think for her, with the North Node Uranus, this is like things completely took a turn, an unexpected turn. On her Venus, this is like, I think she relied heavily on her beauty to get her far in her life, Venus and Taurus. And I think maybe for once in her life, her beauty didn't allow her to win. This Mars Chiron is still on her Mercury. This is about her feeling embarrassed. Chiron Mercury, like, people are embarrassing me. I'm embarrassed. People are saying things that are really hurtful, right? Mars Mercury is like, I mean, she was receiving a lot of hatred. And so that was terrible. All right. So that's pretty much that. So to finish this off, let's take a look at their dynamic. Like, what was the truth of this dynamic? Johnny's role in the relationship, her role in the relationship in between them. This is Johnny. Her between them. So, I mean, of course, we have a 5 of Wands between them. The Fool means that he was being stupid. Like, Johnny was just, he was living by the edge of his bootstrap, right? The Fool is just like him doing whatever he wants, right? Marrying a younger woman because she's beautiful, going off and, you know, living this tumultuous relationship because it's fun, it's exciting, it keeps him on edge. On her end, though, the King of Swords is very calculated. This means from the moment she met him, she decided she was going to marry him or have him. She, like, was scheming. King of Swords is like, she had her head on straight. He did not. The 5 of Wands between them, I mean, obviously they did not see eye to eye. There was a lot of conflict between them. Okay. Now let's take a look at maybe how Johnny feels about how everything unfolded between between them, we have the Ten of Cups, so he did really love her. And I think he thought that this was going to be the last time he ever got married. Like, this is the one. Judgment and the Page of Wands. But then he realized it was more, like, it was always about money. I think maybe he doubts whether or not she ever wanted anything other than his money. Knight of Pentacles is like, was she ever anything other than selfish? Like, Knight of Pentacles is like, she's selfish. Page of Wands is like, she was always telling me that. It could be Page of Wands that she'd always mention that. And Judgment could indicate that he learned a lesson that day. He learned a lesson with that one. That was crazy. Judgment is like a very karmic card to pull. What about her? How does she feel about the way that things played out? Okay. She feels like she was screwed over. And lies were spread about her. She feels like she was wronged, essentially. Six of Pentacles. Oh, this is like her thinking, yeah, I lied, but you lied too, kind of vibe. Seven of Wands. And again, Nine of Pentacles is like, she's always out for herself. She's a survivor. Like, her chart's very like, I'm going to survive. I'm going to do whatever I need to survive. But I also feel like, her energy around how everything played out is that she feels angry about it. And she feels like, you cheated. Like, that's kind of the vibe. You cheated. I cheated, but you cheated too. So this is interesting. It's not surprising. Her energy is very argumentative. She's like, her chart definitely shows her as someone who, has that kind of mindset where she can't be a victim. Like, she can be a victim, but she doesn't want to admit failure, if that makes sense. Like, even if she loses at something, like, she can't admit that it's her fault. Like, she has that kind of personality. Because the emotional weight of admitting that maybe she was in the wrong or she maybe contributed to the situation is too much for her. Like, she doesn't know how to deal with her own feelings very well. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys on these two. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you later. Bye.